making headlines this hour. The portfolio for the former Ministry of Cities, Local Government and Public Works rests now on the restructured Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises. The Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy commences the development of nature parks on 10 islands. The Maldives Media and Broadcasting Commission highlights the crucial role annual reports of media outlets and publications play in the development of media in the Maldives.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to PSM News in English with me, Idham Naim. The Maldives and Sri Lanka share a close relationship shaped by their geography and cultural ties. Sri Lanka, in particular, plays an important role in providing services to Maldivians, especially in education and healthcare.
Formal diplomatic relations between the two countries were established on 26 July 1965. As part of this ongoing partnership, Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayaka paid an official visit to the Maldives in July last year. During the visit, both sides discussed ways to strengthen cooperation across a range of areas, including capacity building, education, climate change, fisheries, agriculture, food security, maritime safety, and air connectivity. Several agreements were signed, including ones aimed at improving legal cooperation and supporting human resource development in the foreign sector. President Dissanayaka also met with government ministers and highlighted investment opportunities in Sri Lanka for Maldivian businesses, particularly in fisheries, urban development, and ICT. He encouraged Maldivian investors to explore these sectors. During a joint press conference, he reiterated that Sri Lanka offers favorable conditions for Maldivian investment. When Sri Lanka was hit by floods in December last year, the Maldives was one of the first to respond, providing significant assistance. According to official Sri Lankan media, the Maldives was one of the largest contributors of aid. The Maldives raised $2.4 million to support those affected, while the government donated $50,000 along with 25,000 cases of canned fish. This support was warmly received by both the Sri Lankan government and its people. Diplomatic relations between the Maldives and Sri Lanka date back to 1965, making this year the 61st anniversary of that partnership. Sri Lanka also holds a special place in Maldivian history. When the Maldives signed independence from British protection on 26 July 1965, the agreement was signed in Sri Lanka. Today, Sri Lanka remains home to a large number of Maldivians and continues to be a key destination for higher education and medical treatment. It is one of the main providers of healthcare services to Maldivians under the Asanda scheme and plays an important role in developing human resources across various fields. The two countries also work closely in defense. Economically, Sri Lanka is an important partner. A significant share of food items and construction materials used in the Maldives is imported from there. To make travel easier, a 90-day on-arrival visa for Maldivians was introduced in July last year. Travel by Maldivians to Sri Lanka for healthcare, education, business, and tourism also contributes positively to the Sri Lankan economy. Overall, the relationship between the Maldives and Sri Lanka is long-standing, built on mutual respect and a strong sense of friendship between their peoples.
The Ministry of Climate Change, Environment and Energy commences the development of nature parks on 10 islands.
President Dr. Mohamed Muiz has finalized a policy to establish at least one nature park in every atoll. Submissions of proposals from interested islands have been open since 2024. The ministry stated that numerous proposals were received and assessed. Based on this evaluation, development has now begun on the 10 islands that achieved the highest scores. The selected islands are Moradu in Ha Alif Atoll, Kumundu in Ha Dal Atoll, Landu in Noon Atoll, Hura in Kaf Atoll, Omadu in Alif Dal Atoll, Korufushi in Mimu Atoll, Kimidu in Tha Atoll, Gang in Lamu Atoll, Konde in Gaf Alif Atoll, and Fior in Gaf Dal Atoll. The ministry noted that the concept and scope of each project were determined in consultation with the respective island councils. Work is currently underway to finalize and sign grant agreements with the councils. The government has already established nature parks in several regions, including Phomlak City and Ardo City. These developments have supported the growth of the tourism sector and continue to deliver wider economic benefits.
Mohamed Laman is appointed as an executive member of the Board of Directors of Maldives Ports Limited (MPL). The Privatization and Corporatization Board (PCB) appointed him to the role following the dismissal of Ibrahim Ziato, who previously held the position. Laman most recently served as Deputy Managing Director of Maldives Airports Company Limited (MACL). He has previously served as the Managing Director of Fenaka Corporation Limited, Chief Human Resource Officer and Chief Procurement Officer at Maldives Industrial Fisheries Company (MIFCO). He has experience in corporate governance, project management and leadership, particularly within government-owned companies. Laman holds a Master of Business Administration from the University of Colombo. The Maldives Transport and Contracting Company (MTCC) announces a significant change in strategy for the Bodo Takurufan Omagu development project, confirming that all remaining segments will now be tiered simultaneously.
This new approach is expected to streamline the final phase of the major infrastructure upgrade. Originally, the plan was to complete the asphalt laying on segment 5, stretching from the Hemweru ferry terminal to the FSM building before moving on to the other sections. However, with sidewalk work currently underway on segment 5 and substantial progress on the remaining 3 segments, the MTCC has opted for a more sufficient unified tarring process. MTCC Senior Project Manager Sharwaz Abdullah Faiz told PSM News that key preparatory work across the unfinished segments, including critical quay wall construction and the laying and upgrading of water and sewage pipes, is well advanced. Additionally, 50% of the project's piling work, which involves driving 522 sheets, has been completed. To minimize disruptions, the road will remain open to pedestrians during much of this period. It will be temporarily closed only during the actual asphalt laying operations before reopening to traffic. This third phase of the road's modernization encompasses segments 2 to 5 of Phase 1, a 700-meter stretch from the Izzuddin Jetty to the Hemweru ferry terminal, and includes the renovation of 610 meters of seawall. A central feature of the redesign has been a significant widening of the roadway by around 6 meters, a change expected to greatly alleviate a chronic congestion in this busy service area that accommodates ferries, speedboats, and cargo boats. The project's most transformative element is set to be developed in the third segment, where a large 98-meter by 28-meter area has been dredged from the harbour to create a substantial new parking zone. This area is slated to provide 500 dedicated parking spaces for motorcycles, addressing a critical need in the capital and further contributing to reduce traffic congestion for all road users.
The portfolio for the former Ministry of Cities, Local Government and Public Works rests now on the restructured Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises.
Questions have been raised by some parties regarding which government minister is responsible for matters concerning councils under the decentralization system. These questions emerged following the abolition of the Ministry of Cities, Local Government and Public Works by President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu. The decentralization system in the Maldives is inherently new. It has been in operation since 2010 under a specific law. Under this framework, the institution designated to oversee councils is the Local Government Authority, LGA. In 2023, President Dr. Mohamed Muizzu established a ministry responsible for cities, local government administration, and public works, with the aim of strengthening council work and improving coordination between councils and the government. Many councils acknowledged that this brought positive results. However, with recent changes brought to the cabinet, the mandates of several ministries have been reassigned. Among these changes, the ministry responsible for cities and councils was dissolved and its mandate was transferred to the Ministry of Finance. The president stated that these changes were made after considering which ministries were most closely related to those responsibilities. Following these changes, the mandate of the Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises has also been updated. According to this mandate, the ministry is responsible for developing administrative regions in the Maldives and implementing policies for governing them under decentralized principles. Therefore, matters that were previously submitted to the ministry responsible for cities must now be directed to the Ministry of Finance and Public Enterprises. Under the Decentralization Act, the LGA is responsible for overseeing how councils operate and for regulating their work. Since the president has appointed Finance Minister Musa Zamir as the president of the LGA, accountability to Parliament regarding council matters falls to the minister. The LGA has also stated that the dissolution of the ministry responsible for cities does not create any legal gaps. With the 17th Amendment to the Decentralization Act, services previously provided by atoll councils are now delivered under the LGA. Additionally, the assets and resources of atoll councils are legally transferred to the LGA. As such, the law grants the LGA the authority to establish its offices. Therefore, even without a separate ministry for cities, the LGA will continue to assume and carry out council responsibilities as before. In this arrangement, overall responsibility ultimately rests with the Finance Minister, Musa Zamir.
The Maldives Media and Broadcasting Commission (MMBC) highlights the crucial role annual reports of media outlets and publications play in the development of media in the Maldives.
MMBC has enacted a comprehensive new framework for the registration of newspapers and magazines, central to which is a mandatory annual report on their operations. Media outlets that fail to submit the detailed report will face financial penalties, the Commission has stated. Speaking on the Raja Miyadu program on PSM News, Ibrahim Ashraf, Director of Broadcast Regulation at the MMBC, explained that the annual reports will require publications to provide data on the number of articles published across various fields. He projected that this collection data will, within 2 years, provide a clear and definitive picture of the scope and focus of the Maldivian media sector. He further highlighted the report's role in identifying training needs for journalists and its importance for the overall development of the journalism field. A significant aspect of the new policy is its relevance to funding. Ashraf noted that these reports will serve as crucial information for potential donors. By accurately identifying the situation and operational scale of a publication, including smaller outlets, the annual reports will be instrumental, particularly when foreign entities are considering providing financial assistance. The new rules also formalize the classification of print media into 4 distinct categories: newspapers, magazines, newsletters, and journals, each with defined platforms for implementation. Key provisions mandate the registration application must be processed within 30 days and require all publications to have a designated editor and a responsible person. Registrations are valid for a period of 5 years and must be renewed 90 days prior to their expiry. Additionally, a publication's registration will be automatically cancelled if it ceases publication for 12 consecutive months. In a move to regulate commerce, the framework also stipulates that any newspaper or magazine wishing to charge a fee from readers must first submit their proposed fee structure to the MMBC for approval. The MMBC has granted a 6-month grace period for all previously registered publications to comply with the new regulation.
The Business Centre Corporation, BCC, says that the application window for the highly anticipated Maldives Expo 2026 is now open, with a deadline for initial registrations set for 31st August.
In a significant shift from previous years, the corporation has introduced a phased application process designed to maximize participation and flexibility for local exhibitors. This year's expansive exhibition will showcase Maldivian innovation and enterprise across 73 distinct categories within 16 diverse fields. Eligibility is broad, open to any Maldivian citizen over the age of 13, companies with 100% Maldivian ownership, government entities, educational institutions, city and island councils, and persons with special needs. Explaining the new two-staged application system, BCC Deputy Managing Director Samehu Adam explained that the initial phase requires only basic information. Applicants are only required to provide their personal detail, select their desired category, and indicate the number of items they plan to exhibit by 31st August deadline. This allows the BCC to effectively plan the layout and scale of the event. Full product details can be finalized and submitted in the second phase, which remains open until the 15th of September. The new process has already seen a strong response, with over 180 applications received to date. A notable addition to this year's expo is the introduction of a dedicated category for religious content. The BCC highlighted this as a pivotal opportunity for Islamic educators, religious awareness activists, and content creators to present their work on a national platform, further enhancing the diversity of the exhibition. Interested parties are encouraged to submit their initial applications before the 31st August deadline to ensure their space at Maldives Expo 2026.
The Maldives Hajj Corporation affirms its commitment to delivering exceptional and satisfactory services to Maldivian pilgrims undertaking the sacred journey this year. With the nation having received an allocation of 1,000 Hajj quotas, the corporation is deploying a highly trained team of assistants dedicated to ensuring a smooth and spiritually fulfilling experience for every pilgrim. The quota includes not only pilgrims but also the essential assistants who form the backbone of the support system. These assistants are tasked with providing comprehensive care, covering all logistical needs from transportation between holy sites and accommodation in dedicated hotels to catering services and administrative coordination. Additionally, dedicated teams of health workers will be on hand to address medical needs. Crucially, the assistants are also trained to offer expert guidance and support in all matters of worship, ensuring pilgrims can perform their pilgrimage with confidence and correctness. Emphasizing the importance of preparation, Hajj Corporation Managing Director Mohammad Shakil confirmed that every assistant undergoes a rigorous special training program before departure. Shakil expressed a full confidence in the team's capabilities, stating that the team of assistants is capable of providing any assistance to a pilgrim. An advanced team is scheduled to depart from Maldives on Monday to make final preparations in Saudi Arabia. Small restaurant owners and street food vendors across India says a steep rise in commercial liquefied petroleum gas (LPG) prices was hurting their businesses and forcing difficult choices between raising menu prices and absorbing losses.
India's largest state-run refiner, Indian Oil Corporation, raised the prices of liquefied petroleum gas used by industries. The refiner said the price of a 19-kilogram LPG cylinder for industrial clients was hiked by 993 rupees or 47.8% to 3,071.5 rupees. The price hikes come amid a sharp surge in global oil prices, which have climbed above $100 a barrel following the closure of the Strait of Hormuz amid the ongoing Iran war. Some vendors said they had already increased menu prices in recent months due to higher costs of raw materials and packaging, but feared another round of price hikes could drive away customers. The war in the Middle East has choked up maritime traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, which is a conduit for a fifth of global oil and liquefied natural gas flows. It has also come on top of the effects of Russia's war with Ukraine, which had already severed Russian gas supplies to Europe.
China's ambassador to the United Nations says that there was a need to revisit the UN Security Council's decision to end the mandate of a long-running peacekeeping mission in Lebanon at the end of this year.
The UN Interim Force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, established in 1978, patrols Lebanon's southern border with Israel. Last year, the Security Council unanimously agreed to begin a withdrawal of the mission at the end of 2026. Envoy Fu Zong said China, which has taken over the presidency of the Security Council for May, was concerned about the situation in Lebanon. He said there was no real ceasefire in place, only a lesser fire.
I would like to ask you about your position on the situation in southern Lebanon after the end or expiration of the UNIFIL's mandate. Yeah. What's your position on this?
We are very concerned about what's happening in Lebanon. Actually, people say that there is no ceasefire. There's even a new term, which is lesser fire. So it's not a real ceasefire.
More than 2,500 people have been killed in Israeli strikes across Lebanon since March 2nd, when armed group Hezbollah fired on Israel in support of its ally Iran and triggered an Israeli ground and air campaign that has left swaths of southern Lebanon in ruins. Israel's mission to the United Nations did not immediately respond to a request for comment, but Israel says its military activities in Lebanon are aimed at stopping attacks by Hezbollah militants. Responding to a question about the UNIFIL mandate, Fu said, quote, "We do believe we should revisit the decision actually to withdraw the UNIFIL," unquote. Fu said he had spoken recently about the issue to UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. He said the UN Secretariat was thinking about a review and would come up with options in June for the implementation of UN Resolution 1701 that ended a round of deadly conflict between Hezbollah and Israel in 2006. UN Peacekeeping Chief Jean-Pierre Lacroix said last month that some form of ongoing UN presence might continue after the UNIFIL mandate ends.
U.S. President Donald Trump tells reporters that he was not satisfied with Iran's latest proposal for resolving the conflict and that negotiations were taking place by phone.
Trump repeated his prediction that oil and gas prices would fall when the war with Iran ends. He added that he was not worried about the state of U.S. missile stocks amid reports of concerns about the pace of weapons use during the conflict with Iran.
So they want to make a deal, but I'm not satisfied with it, so we'll see what happens. Iran wants to make a deal because they have no military left, essentially, and they want to make a deal, but I'm not satisfied with it.
Trump's comments came after Tehran had submitted its latest proposal for negotiations with the United States. Iranian state media and a Pakistani official said a move that could offer hope for breaking a deadlock in efforts to end the Iran war. Trump faces a formal U.S. deadline on Friday to end the war or make the case to Congress for extending it under the 1973 War Powers Resolution. The date looks set to pass without altering the course of the conflict after a senior administration official said that for the purposes of the resolution, hostilities had terminated due to the April ceasefire between Tehran and Washington.
Iranian media reports that Iranian Soccer Federation President Mehdi Taj said Canadian officials cleared him to enter the country for the FIFA Congress, but Iran's delegation chose to turn back after being held for 3 hours and questioned at the Toronto airport.
Taj, a former member of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, said he was questioned by Canadian immigration about his ties to the group, but was ultimately allowed into the country for the pre-World Cup gathering in Vancouver. Canadian authorities have said members of the IRGC are prohibited from entering the country, which is set to co-host the World Cup from June along with the United States and Mexico. Reuters has contacted Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, which issues visas to travel to the country, for comment. Taj said FIFA President Gianni Infantino had offered to send a jet to take the Iranian delegation to Canada after they returned to Turkey, but they refused. Reuters has reached out to FIFA for comment. Infantino insists that Iran would play World Cup matches in the United States, despite tensions between the two countries since the US and Israel launched a war against Iran in February. FIFA earlier rejected Tehran's request for alternative venues for matches on U.S. soil.
The streets of the historic Italian alpine town of Brixen, also known as Bressanone, illuminates with lights and messages of peace for the 2026 edition of the Brixen Water Light Festival.
Projections on the town's monuments and installations set up in its squares aim to convey this year's festival theme of Imagine Peace, with a particular focus on the war in Ukraine, through 24 immersive light art installations by artists from 13 countries displayed across squares, buildings, and along the Isaac and Reens rivers that run through the town. Visitors were able to explore Brixen in a different way.
This year's edition on the Waterlight Festival, we put it under the main theme, the peace. And we believe, and the artists believe, that peace starts by ourselves. It starts in the society, and it starts with a peaceful thinking, a peaceful being, and a peaceful waking up in the morning. That is what peace should be. A very personal thing, but it's also a thing for the whole society. And our artists during the Waterlight Festival are working and expressing themselves about the topic of peace.
The Brixen Waterlight Festival runs until May 16th, marking the United Nations International Day of Light.
That concludes news for now. Thank you for watching PSM News. Have a good day.